This question from Kathy. I really want to go faster. Looking at my age group, I need to get faster on the bike. I am 60 years old. Is that possible? What are your thoughts about Kathy's question, Coach?
So when I first read this question, the first thing I thought of, and we have talked about this in the past, is of course it is faster. It is possible to go faster in your 60s unless you've been in the sport as long as I have. So I'm been in the sport for 30 years. And when I get to my 60s, I mean, I'm 50. I'm not anticipating or expecting myself to really get any faster than I was because I've been training for 30 years. Someone who's very new to the sport in their late 50s, early 60s, of course, they have potential to get faster because they are so new and so exponentially as a new athlete, no matter what your age is, you will get faster if you put in the balance of training, specific endurance, technique, strength, threshold, and speed workouts. I also want to say is if you're training for an Ironman, you're less likely to get faster through an Ironman training plan because that's not the purpose of an Ironman training plan, is to work on your speed. If you want to get faster, you should work on specific intensities that are more appropriate for like a sprint, an Olympic, 5K, 10K type of training plan. So I wanted to add that into the equation. And then also, how fast do you feel like you have to get in your age group at a certain race? And that's kind of what you alluded to at the beginning of the podcast, is you found a site that has specific times based on certain age groups.
Yeah. So this is the 60 to 64 age group for women across a couple dozen Ironmans. And these are the average times, it says here, for the finishers. And it looks like it's going to be in the low 6-hour range at best, 6.5 hours up to 8 hours on average for your bike split.
That's a fast bike split, 6 to 6.5 for really any age group, but especially for the older age group, that's pretty fast.
6.5 hours to 8. The fastest I see here is 6:28 for Western Australia. The slowest was Cozumel at 8 hours. Or actually St. George, 8:10.
And St. George is very hilly.
Yeah. Arizona was surprisingly at 7:22, where Coeur d'Alene, I thought was more hilly, was 7:07. So it was faster for that age group in Coeur d'Alene than it would be in Arizona, surprisingly.
And, someone told me way back when I started triathlon, 30 years ago, they said, I met a professional triathlete who ended up being my boss manager at the Fort Collins Health Club that I worked at. And he said it took him 8 years to really develop the sport-specific strength, endurance, and speed to be where he was at. And so I remember when I had been in the sport for 8 years, I'm like, oh my God, Tony was right. I feel like I finally have that background, that foundation. And again, I started at a young age. So, I mean, I started when I was 19, 20 years old. And so by the time I was in my late 20s, and again, late 20s to mid 30s, I'm kind of riding the roller coaster of setting my, peak of the sport. So it just takes time. It takes time, but it also takes the proper training, intensities, and efforts and recovery and fueling. And there's just so much involved in getting faster. But yes, you can get faster.